2, I'm going to kick off this meeting. So, welcome to 2026, everyone. I trust everyone had a pleasant holiday series. And like we said, we're all kicking around and still making it happen this year. So, that's worth something. So, we've got a lot to cover today. We're going to go through just the general program updates of news and to-dos and calendar updates and so forth. But I want to make sure that we also have time at which Vivian and Sharon are going to share with us the budget for 2026 that we put together for the foundation, and that we as a work group, as a board, spent planning time last Friday preparing. Kim Erion will join us later on because she's going to wow us with what she does in real life. This is gardening at a scale that we cannot even think about. Yes, as Val is indicating, it's a big scale, that's for sure. So prepare to be awed as we get into it today. So first of all, welcome everyone. So a reminder then that today at 1 o'clock, we have our board meeting. So the foundation board will meet today. And we'll say it again when we talk through the budget, but that is going to be when we're going to formally approve the budget. So we're not going to have time during this meeting to go into the gnarly details of line by line on the budget. We're going to get a summary, but if you do want to dive deep into the budget we're preparing for this year, 1 o'clock is the time to join us. It'll be at the same URL you're logging into today. Okay. So we have a training session coming up this Saturday, last Saturday, the 10th, and congratulations on all the folks working towards that. We have a meeting this Saturday for Greater Grays Harbor, Montesano. We have study group Midge next Tuesday, right? Next Monday, the 19th. And the focus, of course, on that Monday is going to be one of my favorite new books, right? How Can I Help from Doug Tallamy. And if you haven't purchased that or checked it out of the library, do so, because it's a great compendium of everything that Doug Tallamy has done. And oh, by the way, Helen reminds us that Doug is going to be speaking at the Seattle Flower and Garden Show. And so there's another extra incentive to get up there and hear Dr. Tallamy. And then we've got a soils workshop at the end of the month on the 24th. And as you saw in the e-news, go ahead and RSVP for that because space is limited. There's only so much soil, right? Okay. Okay, other dates to think about as we get into the calendar. As you think about the entire year, our plant sale on May 9th, the Saturday before Mother's Day, and the Home and Garden Show on the Saturday and Sunday after Mother's Day. Key events in which we need all hands. So those are key dates to put on your calendar already today, because we will need everyone based upon the aspirations that we have, the ambitions we have for that show this year. July 18th is our garden tour. We'll be in Ocean Shores. So get that on your calendar and make sure that you're preparing yourself to help out during that event. So lots of stuff happening and it's important that, as we all know, calendars get away from us quickly. So let's get these dates on the annual calendar and make sure we're ready to go. Okay, so again, as I indicated, we got a full day to go today. We're going to be talking about our 2026 budget. We're going to be talking about overall program updates. Kim will be here later to talk through. Reminder, of course, that we meet today as Master Gardeners here in Grays Harbor and Pacific Counties. We are all certified by WSU per the Master Gardener program. We have a separate foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit recognized by the IRS as a charitable organization that primarily drives to support funds that support the program. So what we do as a foundation and the corporation that represents is all intended to support the mission of the Master Gardener program. Your 2026 board, as was elected from you last October, Mike leads us as president. We have the vice president, secretary, treasurer, co-treasurers, 2 state reps, Aaron and Marilyn, Lori, and Team Terry for public events. And of course, our regional directors, because we are so large, remember, we're 3,500 square miles between the 2 counties here. And so Rita's leading us here in Pacific County. Peggy and Wendy are co-leading us in Coastal Grays Harbor, and your name here in Greater Grays Harbor. So still looking, right? Lori is still looking to offload the mantle. You know, we're happy to have
Um,
Lori, but yeah, I know. I think at this meeting on Saturday, Lori, I just beat the hell out of your team there to get somebody to sign up.
Lori?
I have a
She'll,
little
I'm
bell.
afraid she's going to leave town if nobody steps up. So,
Our meeting is in Hoquiam, by the way, so
yeah,
and we're all welcome.
Very good. So let's make sure I have a new name to put on this slide for next month. Okay, that's
That'd
our
be
goal.
good.
Okay, Jennifer, of
she
course,
may.
is our. Go ahead, Val,
Oh,
please.
I was just going to say she may have one because she's kind of grinning. So, I
No, I
hope.
don't. It's still open.
Okay, so there you go.
Wonderful.
Anyway,
It's the call out. Hey, it's not it doesn't have to be a heavy lift, people, right? There's a lot of people here to help you, so it's just not a great stress. Our coordinators for 2026 will be Aaron and Wendy. As you read in the e-news, Aaron's taking the lead role. Wendy is stepping back a bit, but she's still there with us. So, Aaron and Wendy, any comments regarding the role? And in fact, any comments you want to make regarding Dan's announcement that he shared and you wrote up in the email?
Yeah, actually, I will say something about that. For anyone who didn't see it in the e-news, the Grace Harbor's commissioners passed a 2026 budget that included funding for a program coordinator slash small farms coordinator. So Dan is currently working on creating that position with WSU, writing up the position descriptions, building a team to do the interviews, and hope to have someone in that position end of February, early March. So it'll be part-time, about 20 hours a week on average, and it'll be, I think it's not quite 50-50 for small farms and master gardeners. So it'll be, but that person will divide their time between two different um, job functions.
Any questions for Aaron on this? This is a big deal. We haven't had a paid role on this in a long, long time. And this individual will be a WSU employee, therefore, with access to different systems, information, and capacities that we've not had. So this is a big deal, and congratulations to Dan, and thank yous to the Grace Harbor commissioners, right, for throwing
mm,
their cash behind it.
so
Okay. So with that in mind, reminder then that we are as a service organization, right? We are here to support. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities for all of us to engage in 2026 in volunteer activities. Okay, Tapio moment. So what I've done is that once again, I'm trying to draw from Don's book, right? From many years ago for some phenomenal knowledge that that obviously over his decades of experience has shared. And in his January 18th article in 2008, he wrote about winter tree damage and can these trees be saved? And I'm sharing this in the spirit of all the storms that we've recently had to endure and still may have to endure this winter that are going to cause all kinds of damage and structural damage to many of our trees. And what can we say to our community when they ask us about these particular trees? Interesting quick note that Don said regarding small trees. The higher the break and the smaller the diameter of the tree at the break point, the higher probability of survival. So he goes on to talk about staking, and he talks about the correct method of staking. Two stakes just a few inches from the trunk, right? And tying at the lowest height that'll stabilize the tree. He emphasizes we got to move those stakes. Those stakes should not be there likely beyond one growing season as the tree gains its structure. Now, taller trees or trees that are bent past horizontal, Don is saying unlikely to recover. Now, this is interesting, because I don't know about, I can't speak for others' experience here, but of course, here at the coast, we get tremendous winds, hurricane force sometimes. And we've seen trees, bent dramatically and partially uprooted because we get so much precipitation here at the coast in particular. I found that trees that maybe even have half their root ball open do survive in a weird way because they can get enough nutrients from the roots that are still in the ground to go along. Now, are they ugly? Are they, is the integrity of the tree preserved? No. But it is a note that Don's making here is that if the tree is leaning into horizontal, think about replacing it. You're not going to get a strong tree afterwards. Large trees with broken tops. Boy, we see this a lot, right? Remove the tree if it becomes a safety hazard. And this is the key point, right? This is that we as master gardeners should be comfortable in removing even precious specimens that we value, if indeed it's going to be a hazard, if indeed it's not going to perform in the method that we wanted to, in the way that we wanted to make it happen. Don makes the point that the new tops that come from a side branch or from a top tree are always structurally weak, and they are going to be more susceptible to future damage and issues. And by the way, just to this point, here at the coast, right, the Columbus Day storm of 1964, wreaked havoc here on certainly in Pacific County and obviously, and I know in coastal Grays Harbor County as well. I have a number of trees on my property that clearly at that age were just severed at the tops. And so I have trees today that they're about 40 to 50 feet up, in which you can see how they've been topped and they've regrown through some shoots and so forth, very structurally unstable, but still surviving. Branches with torn or stripped barks. This happens a lot, obviously, if a tree falls down, hits other trees, and may strip the bark. Don suggests that you actually can go into this and smooth the ragged edges around the opening, and let the tree go on. The trees can be quite resilient if we give them a chance and make sure that we're not offering any ragged areas in which insects or fungus or bacteria may enter. So, bottom line, Don's recommendations here. The best way to protect, it's the old adage, right plant, right place. Select the right trees that are going to be appropriate for your area and for your site. Prune regularly. The goal is a center of gravity on that tree that is squarely over the trunk and a crown that lets wind pass through it as opposed to becoming a sail for wind gust. Comments or thoughts on this? Wise words from Don, written many years ago, but still very appropriate. Okay. Hey, on to January to-dos. Time to begin a garden journal for the new year. How many people do a garden journal? How many people here? Hands are coming up. This is great. Very impressive. Look
I
at that.
start one and then I usually abandon it by March.
But seriously, and Mike, I don't know if you want to share. You want to share sometime your garden journal, because it's more than just a garden journal, right? It's an entire diary of so I appreciate the fact that some can be simple, some can be more complex, but it is important, and it's good hygiene, right? It's good hygiene for us to remark what we're doing. Okay, vegetable garden layout and seed orders, right? How many people have perused their territorial seed catalog, which I know have, yeah, look at that. All kinds of hands raising on this one, right? I mean, that's required reading for a master gardener here, right? Okay. Hey, time for hardwood cuttings for propagation, which plants stay and need to go. I know this is the time when it may be hard to let go, but it's okay to replace, right? It's okay to replace stuff. Hey, Rhonda, Sharon, you have your hands up. Rhonda. Oh, no, not your hand up. You were just waving. Okay. So maintenance and cleanup. This is tool time. Oil, sharpen, and sterilize. And of course, I should add to this, Mike, I should add sharpen, right? Here's the opportunity. No, I'm sorry, sharpen is there. But this is the opportunity to pay attention to all those tools. And it for all of those who have spouses who like to leave their tools out over the winter, right? Just saying, right? Might be a time to go out and just do an inventory to make sure how many of those tools you can collect and try to get inside before the spring comes on. I'm just saying, Bev, just saying, you know. Hey, time to mulch, but recall we don't want to have a mulch volcano, right? So this is a to mulch carefully and don't there actually can be limits to mulching. And I'm speaking as one who's I actually killed rhubarb by over mulching. So this is and yes,
Oh.
indeed, you can kill rhubarb, and this is although it's an embarrassment. Don Tappy always made the point about remembering to water. And even in times, even over the winter, right, when we think we're getting tremendous amounts of precipitation, there may be plants that are struggling, and that we may actually have to think about watering certain plants that aren't getting enough water. Now, don't walk on lawns until frost is melted. That's interesting. I mean, we haven't had much of a cold weather yet, but the reminder is there. I put up the slide because it's interesting for us to think about a time to propagate via cuttings. And it takes a little practice, and they're certainly going to have a high mortality. But this is a great opportunity to think about taking favorite plants, right? And actually starting new plants from cuttings. And at both WSU and OSU, there's a combined publication out there for how to do this. And it's not all that difficult, even though we have to be prepared for mortality that's going to come. So encourage everybody to think about trying. Soil testing, do as we say, not as we do. I know none of us test as much as we think we should, but it is a viable practice, especially in a winter which we're having now, in which there's so much precipitation. We know that nutrients are getting washed out of our soil, in vast amounts. I bet we all, if we haven't had a test recently, I bet we all are largely misconstrued as to what our soil health is and the nutrient value is. And I know this is something that we emphasized in the training that we did for the Pacific County trainees a few weeks ago. And I know that we've been emphasizing the Thurston County. That's a conservation district, right, Mike? Where they do the soil testing. So the Thurston County Conservation District to be relatively inexpensive, thorough, and communicating results in layman terms. So encouraging all of us to, walk the talk and get our soil tested this year. Pest monitoring, chemical controls only when necessary and only after reading the label. This is something, of course, we're trying to drill into our trainees here this year, that pesticide label is the law, and that we as master gardeners have a special responsibility, right, to ensure that we are following those mandates. Fruit trees, right? Time to be thinking about issues for pruning. Canker is being mentioned here. Again, these are from OSU, so there may or may not be immediately appropriate for where we're sitting at here. Field mice damage on lower trunks, dormant sprays of lime for roses, right? And then moss in lawn may mean too much shade. Remember some of our comments we had regarding moss, though. Moss is going to happen everywhere, right? So this is just the time of season to celebrate moss. And houseplants, time to monitoring for correct water and fertilizer. Again, self-admission, I'm always overwatering my houseplants, even though during the winter, right, there's warmer, you have the contrast between cold air coming in through the windows and you have the hot air being blown up through the vents. It's a time to actually think about protecting these sensitive plants, from the different variations in your microclimates inside your house. Interesting that dwarf annuals inside the house for color. So ideas to think about and thinking about all that. Hey, other to-dos for January, other midwinter to-dos that folks practice on. Robin, you have a thought?
I have a question. So, as you were talking earlier about, we've had kind of a mild winter. It hasn't really gotten cold. And usually in January, February, we start cutting back our roses. Well, any thoughts about the roses that are still have all the leaves on them? They're still blooming. I have roses that still have flowers on them. Should we defoliate the take the leaves off the rose to give it a chance to really go into it's shut down because they're still have all the leaves, so they're still having sunlight and they're
So
still
they're still producing foliage and they're still having photosynthesis. Yeah.
right. So I've read in some places that where they go out and just strip all the leaves off the roses to try to make them go into hibernation so they can get ready to cut them back.
I wonder if we want to ask our resident rose expert, Kim Erion, who's joined us here this morning. Do you have a thought, Kim, on how to handle roses this time of year?
Well, how many do you have, Robin? So, yeah.
10, 15.
Okay, so yeah, I try to get as many leaves off as possible. Mostly I'm taking them off because of preventing disease going into the next season.
Right.
So it all depends on the health of your rose right now. You can leave it. You can leave them, they'll be fine. Just I have 800, so I can tell that.
Well, 10 or 15 seems like a lot to go out and defoliate to me. So I
Yeah,
can imagine doing 800.
yeah. You're okay leaving the leaves on. But if you have any sign of any disease, any black spot, any rust, anything, any mildew or anything, just start pulling them all off and make sure that you get all of the leaves off the ground too.
Yeah.
Clean all those up.
Right.
Hey, other thoughts regarding rose pruning or rose care at this time? Anyone? Obviously, these are a lot of questions we get at plant clinics, so this is it's all good for us to be smart about roses.
I had some wind damage from some of our storms on some of the larger bushes. They kind of pulled part of them out of the ground, and so I put them back in, gave them some nutrients and stuff, staked them, and then I cut a lot of the upper limbs off. They were gonna be like pruned severely later anyway, but and I took cuttings while I did that. And I have cuttings propagating, and I think that they're taking. So, yay.
Gwendolyn, what was your technique for the propagation? How were you? Did you just immediately put them in hormone treatment and just stick them in the ground, or you try to
Yeah, I
maybe
put
down?
them in one of the guys I met at Kim's place with the tour she had last year. I mixed peat and perlite and a little bit of sand, and I put them in rooting hormone and then stuck them in that, and keeping them watered. But yeah, and I put them inside my lean-to greenhouse, which is unheated, so it stays 40-50 degrees, and so they seem to be doing great. So I'm really pleased. I it's the Francis Milan that I cut and propagated, because that's a favorite for a lot of people. So
Kim and Val are giving you encouragement there and thumbs up there.
thank you.
Okay, couple of other thoughts, couple of other announcements we need to get into. We wanted to make as a board, one of the things we wanted to remind the group of is that we actually do have scholarship awards that are available to any of our master gardeners for participation in training. And so this is an easy way to get some support for training that might cost monies or programs that might cost you something. If indeed you're willing to come back and do a Tapio moment for us, give a short presentation about what you've learned. So just a heads up that these monies are available because we want to encourage growth and continuing education for ourselves. And if we indeed can provide some financial support to make that happen, we will make that available. So, and then one of the things that we decided to do as a board is launch an awards program committee for this year. We definitely want to do a better job of recognizing, our master gardeners for all of the many contributions they're making throughout the community. And to do so, let's form a committee to actually determine how best to make that recognition. So announcing today, and any welcoming of folks interested in joining that committee. And should they reach out to you, Mike? Is that the best way we want to do this?
Sure, that'll be a good one. And to throw a little teaser out there, you already have $400 in your budget to work with for the awards. And so, yeah, I can be the go-to person, please.
There you go. So we got some money. We got some money to actually throw out this thing. Pretty cool. Okay. Reach out to Mike. And then all the sorts of questions that come in across our Ask a Master Gardener hotline, this is a curious one here, right? So the Skagway Inn in Skagway, Alaska is looking for a gardener. And they reached out to us saying, hey, who wants a job? Who wants to go to Skagway? So this is an oddball thing, but hey, check it out. And if anyone has interest or knows of anyone who might have an interest, reach out to the Skagway Inn in Skagway, Alaska. So, hey, now we're a jobs board here, right? So who knew? So this is your opportunity, Val, right? Get yourself up to Alaska. You wanted to see Alaska,
I was just going to say, PJ is still in Juneau, or she is in Juneau now, not Fairbanks. So she's still principaling. So at least there would be a friend somewhere near. Ah, interesting.
Anyway, we decided this was the best way to handle this question that came in on the website. Let's just post it here and see if anybody has any interest. Okay. Hey, reminder from Aaron and Wendy, it's time to record your hours. We are into a new calendar, and as reported in the e-news, right, they clarified the number of hours required to maintain our credentialing, both for continuing education and for program support. Wendy, Aaron, any comments regarding recording hours or number of hours?
No, just make sure you get them in early and not wait till the last minute. And then I have one other announcement. I'm not sure if you're there yet.
Sure.
But
go right to it. Yeah.
Yeah, the new garden in Ocean Shores. I sent out an email, so hopefully everybody received it. If you didn't, please let me know. It seems Gmail people, for some odd reason, are not getting it. But we are looking for volunteers to be on the steering committee and the infrastructure, the interior design committee, and then the build committee. So we're taking like the kind of an application until Friday. Just send Aaron and I an email stating which committee you'd like to be on and why you would like to be on it, what skills do you have to be on there. So we'll be making the choices next week.
So if anyone didn't receive those emails from Wendy, do reach out, and we can correct that. Google's changed some of their security protocols, Wendy, and and I'll, if I can talk with you afterwards in terms of how we can solve that.
Yeah.
Okay. Sharon, you have your hand up. And you're on mute.
I just have a question about how many months you can go back in 2025 for putting in hours.
Okay, so you can put them in, but it does not count for this year, of course.
I understand.
It would, you can still continue to put them in.
Okay. Right, thank you.
Okay, so we can still record hours for 2025, even though it has no bearing on our 2026
That's correct.
tally. Very good.
Yeah. It still counts towards your lifetime hours.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Reminder, by the way, to be checking the calendar. On to the website, of course, is checking the calendar for activities and for programs. because this is where we definitely do find out, if you're not reading e-news judiciously, right, you might miss out on activities and programs that are happening. Okay, so at this point, I am going to pause, resume recording, and pick up here with first of all, any other extra announcements or information that anyone wants to share before we turn the floor over to Kim. Any other
Yes, that
news?
would be, I have a couple of items of information. First of all, on next Monday, the weed people are going to come and help at Lake Sylvia. We've got a chance to get another real serious attack between 10 and 3 on ivy. They gave us, well, between volunteers and their time, I think we had something like 81 hours in one day last year. So this is on Monday, Martin Luther King Day, from 10 to 3, and lunch will be provided. They're talking about taco soup. That's item 1. Item 2, native plant sale, Saturday, April 18, at the Thurston County Fairgrounds. And it's from 10 to 1, but you better be there at 10 if you want anything. And that frees you up to be at 1 o'clock on April 18th, Saturday, for the Trillium Trek in Montesano. The third item is lunch for your brains. This time is going to be, well, it's always the fourth Tuesday in Montesano. We say, bring your lunch. We'll provide coffee, cookies, and food for thought. And it's a veteran helicopter pilot who is now out at Ocean Shores. He was one of the search, rescue, recovery people for Mount St. Helens, and he took a lot of pictures. He has a new book out called Under the Ash. That's Tuesday, January 27 from 12 to 1 at the Monty Library. And if anybody didn't get a chance to purchase see if I can get it in range, the native plant calendar for this year, let me know. I picked up an extra one at the meeting last night, and it's $10. Thank you.
So Helen, we so appreciate, you've got the calendar for everything else going on in the region here. So I think it's just safe to say, just reach out to Helen if there's anything else you wanted to know about what you can do, because she's got something for you to do just about every day, every week.
You're always welcome to come join us Wednesdays from 10 to noon. We're working we're working at Schaefer or at Lake Sylvia, and you can text me or call me and I'll tell you where we are. I'll put this latest information in the chat. Thanks, gang.
Thanks, Helen. Other announcements, other comments? Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and stopping the share and turn this over to you, Kim, so that you can share. But reminders, just from a quick introductions here. Remember, Kim joined us last year to share about how she's growing her hundreds of roses up in the most terrifying conditions that can be imagined, right? And it just, of course, it gave heart to all of us that have, we think we had hard growing conditions here, but we know, Kim, that we don't hold a candle to what you're trying to do up at your perch above the Columbia Gorge there. But it was Val who suggested we bring you back to talk about what you do in real life, your day job, which of course we keep encouraging you to draw back from, because it is okay to start slowing down, right? And just taking a breather here. But as you and I chatted yesterday, right, that's not in the cards. And it's really fascinating in terms of the gardening that you do at a scale that we cannot imagine. So I'm encouraging all of us here, prepare to be wowed here as as we listen to Kim share her real life experiences in doing real big gardening projects. Over to you, Kim.
Well, Thanks, Kelly. Hello, all you garden friends. Oh my gosh, it's good to see a bunch of you again. And Val, here I am, ready to go, breakneck. Let's see. Shall we start? I guess I should share my screen, huh? Let's see. Let's go sharing of the screen. So, how we doing there? Do you got her?
It's coming.
Thinking, thinking,
There it
thinking.
is. There it is.
All right. Well, I started on our website, and but what I thought I'd start out with was, yeah, I really am trying to retire, but Val, I just sent a presentation that I did. I'm working on a current project right now, and I'll start with that just because it's so exciting what this project is. So as I'm trying to retire, I'm trying to slow down. I have no longer do I have any employees, but I have the most amazing customers all around the Western United States. And there's a project down in Nevada, and I'm going to change over, and it is near Death Valley. It has the highest concentration in the United States of endemic species and fish. The pupfish and the dace are endangered there. And so I've been asked to put a team together to take out 3 dams and build new channel for these dace. So I've been writing for the last month a proposal to remove dams, remove roads, build hiking trails, and build new stream channel out of a spring. So it's dam removal, it's filling of ditches and things. There's a lot of concrete ditches out there that are causing hydraulic conditions that block all the water. So here's the dam. Pretty exciting, Val.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I just had to start with this one because I'm totally failing, and this is going to be like a 3-year project if we come down to be doing it. It's full removal of this. It's about 500,000 yards of material. So just throwing that out there. Imagine your dump truck load of compost is a 10-yard. I'm giving you guys perspective. One load of compost is 10 yards. There's 500,000 yards of material in this dam. Ah, how exciting, huh? All right. Sorry, I just had to start with that. And then just to kind of give you a perspective of where our region is, we've done almost 300 projects that are only wildlife habitat related, okay? And that is mostly in the Pacific Northwest up here, but several down in California, a whole bunch in northern Idaho, Nebraska, South Dakota, and I've been down here in Nevada for the last 5 years. So that's it's a really unique experience to be able to travel around and learn the different plants, the different soils, the different management styles is a different thing, different cultures. People are taking things seriously in some areas and not so serious in others. Of all these 300 projects, I've done one pika restoration, a couple of frog habitats actually, and one grizzly bear. We've had 3 national awards, several turtle projects, several deer projects. We've done 4 of the pupfish. So that little blue pupfish right there, he's only like maybe 2 inches long. It's just the cutest little thing. 10 sites I take students out on pretty regularly and we monitor. Done recreation sites, 25 of them, lots of cultural resource things. So we do a lot of cultural protection projects, a lot of waterfowl habitat, and you can see 118 restoration planting. And when I say planting, I'm talking between on the low end, maybe 10,000 plants, on the high end, about 500,000 plants. And that 500,000 needs, that project, it went in about 3 months. So just to kind of give you a perspective there. Archaeology sites, high security sites. I do a lot of work with multiple agencies, I guess I'll just say. And so we have to do restoration on high security sites. A lot of the work is design build. So for instance, like this dam removal project that I'm working on, trying to put together potentially in Nevada, it has 3 dams and all these structures that have to be removed, and then a new stream channel needs to be designed after all of the other. It's like 90% of it is just taking out the junk, all the concrete that guys have put out there to farm and build structures, and then the design is 10% like fish utopia. Okay, so that's kind of some fun stuff. Of the 300 projects, that there's been 8 dam removals, levee dam removals, and stuff like that. I'll
Kim,
move
when
on.
you're moving, taking out that much concrete, where do you put that? So when you take
Oh,
out, yeah.
yeah. That it's going to be a really, that project. It's the dam, the concrete is all in these irrigation ditches, okay? And they're leaking, and so we have to dewater the ditch, first of all. So I have to find a place to put the water into a marsh that I'm going to do restoration on. And then the concrete, then we gotta go in and selectively remove the invasive plants, but then also go in and mulch down, say like the cattails, okay? So we'll be mulching down the cattails, and then answer your question, we have to pull out the concrete, haul the concrete off. It doesn't have rebar in it, and so we have a portable little crusher. It's just the cutest little thing, and he's just going to crush it all up, and then we'll either haul it off for disposal, but most likely we'll haul it and put it as base under visitor center parking lots, and then we'll cap that. So then it's all recycled. All the concrete will be recycled. There shouldn't be any rebar in it. It mostly was a poured to the earth, kind of imagine like a curb, only like big, that carries water.
But this also means you're moving heavy equipment around on sensitive areas, right? I mean,
Holy cow!
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll be on mostly on crane mats, because yeah, bad things can happen when you have big machines that get stuck in mud, and so you have to really pay attention to your surroundings, your level of gravity, and fortunately I got a lot of leveler, so I can level myself, but teaching the guys not to over excavate, overextend, stay kind of in a stable, secure spot, and not like swing way out and dump stuff so you fall off your crane mat. That can happen, and it's really bad if that was to happen in a lake. So don't fall off in the lake. So so that's Ash Meadows. I thought I would pull everybody into our website, which thank you, Kelly, for recommending that, because I hadn't been to the website in a long time, and it's kind of neat. I haven't even looked at it for like 5 years, but it kind of goes into detail about who we are. Jim and I have been in business since 1993. But thank you, Helen, for bringing up Mount St. Helens. I'm going to show something on Mount St. Helens, but Jim was actually working on the mountain when it blew May 18th, 1980. And he did lose equipment in that blast. Fortunately, it was on a Sunday, so he was not there and so he survived. But he's been doing restoration on the mountain since that time. He worked in the muddy, in the clear water, working to do restoration after the mountain blew. So that was kind of neat. And I have a couple of pictures about the Toutle River. Oh, let's see. And matter of fact, why don't we just go to, so on our site, we have several different, let me go back for a second. So I have several different main services that we do: general construction, marine, wetland, environmental support, and water habitats. Although most of the stuff that I've been doing right now is mostly consulting, and because I did get rid of 60 employees, and that's been bliss. And then I put in my rose garden, and that's been bliss. But then I am sidetracked helping other companies. And so the project in Nevada, I need a large crew. So I'm mentoring another small business, a woman-owned business, and they're just really eager to learn. So I should probably put another thing that says consulting here. Start out general construction. There's these lots of links here, but here's a project on Mount St. Helens, just one of them. How's that showing, Kelly?
It's good. It's good. Yeah, it's coming across.
Okay, so what this is this one's called the sediment retention structure. And it's a dam that was put in by the Army Corps, and it raises what it is it's holding back the ash. The I can't remember exactly, but about 80,000 yards of sediment rolls down that avalanche every year, approximately. I don't remember exactly, but that's pretty close. And so the Army Corps has to manage all that sediment transport because it goes all the way down the rivers and gets into the low-lying areas around Longview and such, and it causes flooding damage. It has fish passage issues, but also for commerce. So if that sediment goes into the Columbia River, then they have to go by and dredge it a whole bunch. That's why they're dredging, is to keep the commerce going back and forth, the ships going to Portland, because everybody needs a new Toyota today. So what these pipes are showing here is we had to divert the water, move the Toutle River over twice, and we built a 7-foot high fish-friendly dam structure that was a kind of a tiered dam with little valleys and gullies that the fish could climb up. But we had to put a series of pipes across to move the water across. And there's the water going in. So we built ourselves a little road across, and then cleared all the sediment off, and made a new spillway, and put roller compacted concrete, and then moved the water over again. And there's what it looks like. So can you see my cursor, Kelly?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, so there's these little depressions in here, so the fish can go up and rest, and fish can go up and rest. But what this is doing is it's holding back the Mount St. Helens ash.
So the idea is that the sediment accumulates behind the dam, you're saying, right?
It builds a step. When you're closing off the water, you have to time it just so, because you always have to have a quantity of flow at all times for fish passage. So you can't just bulldoze in rocks, I guess, is what I'm trying to say there. And there it is from the air. So here's where the culverts are. Here's the water diverted through here. And we've built a dike kind of road here to protect this area. And this is a portion of the new dam that we're constructing. And the spillway down through here is all really heavy rock. And so once we get this done, then we shift everything over and do it on the other side. So it's kind of large.
Are you able to work all through the year, or is this just constrained in the summer months?
Oh boy, this one was really hard packed in a really tight time window. Most of the time windows up here is like July 15th to September 30 is approximately the timeline for that, for fish stuff. So, lots of projects under that one. And anybody's welcome to go check those out. Let's see, what do I have? For marine project. Oh boy, a marine project. Probably my favorite one would be this one here. Lake Chelan, if anybody's familiar with where Lake Chelan was, we had a project there. It was a 3-year project, and what we were doing was protecting the banks. Let's see, we had to bring everything in on barge. It was rock, it was logs. This particular one shows the sidewalk. What we were doing is protecting the shorelines along the lake for recreation and erosion. A lot of the campgrounds along there, people just kind of crawl over the banks like ants, and this water is so pristine, and it's one of the deepest lakes in the United States. And so we did a series of log and rock structures, logs and rock structures all over to protect the shoreline from erosion. But also in these campgrounds, we made it accessible. This is a wheelchair accessible campground up here. And so this is a mid picture. It's covered with riprap and logs now, so you can't really see the gabion baskets. So I have little baby excavators. We park on felt all the time when we do our servicing. It's just a part of our deal. Working from a barge. This is tying in certain riprap, because what we ended up doing is making rock steps tied into logs, and so you had to cable some of them together so that they for safety. And so there we all are. We bring all these little machines in on the barge. There's the big rocks. I have the boat. That was a pretty fun project, 3 years project. Okay, let's go to wetlands. Which one do I have on wetlands? Lots of wetland projects, but I wanted to, since we're all gardener people, here is the Tucannon River. What we did on the Tucannon is we took out a whole bunch, like, I don't, boy, I'm trying to get a visual for you. Imagine 3 hay barns full of false indigo. How's that? Giant piles of false indigo. We had to get all this stuff out. It's just growing rampant along the edge of the riverbanks. And so we cleared out these giant piles of false indigo and then
So
prepped
just
the site.
how did you do that? I mean, was it a manual excavation of this invasive?
We use this excavator right here. A lot of the time we did have to be on crane mats, like I was talking earlier, because this is a floodplain and is very sensitive, soggy sponge. And so you had to sneak out there, get all the false indigo, and we had to relay it up the hill. You kept relaying it up. And I believe that the Army Corps ended up burning it, really.
See, we're trying to give Helen some encouragement about her ivy up at Lake Sylvia there.
Yeah. Ivy. Yes, I can tell you in the Columbia River Gorge, we did a project called Trail Segment D along, if anybody's familiar with the traveling the Columbia River Gorge and the old scenic highway where Crown Point is and all that. Okay, there's a new trail, well, not new, that's been going on for the last 15 years to connect all the old section there with a biking trail. But we did a segment that took out, oh gosh, horrible ivy. And it was intense. It took 5 years to get all that ivy out. Yuck-ola. But back to Tucana here. So yeah, so we had track trucks. These are low ground pressure trucks that they have a wide track and they kind of float and they can go out across the wetland. So that's a really wet area right there. Um, and then and then we planted the heck out of it. Once we we prepped the site, we mowed the site. We did have to spray the site on some spots. It was selective spraying. Other things that were out there was poison hemlock. We had to take a lot of poison hemlock out. And so you seen earlier that there was a water jet. Some of them were hand done, but some of it right there, water jet. So what we do there is you have a compressor with air that goes down in these long spikes and you pull it down in and then we put willow stakes in.
Kim, what sort of things did you plant? You replace with natives, don't you, generally?
Yes. So on this project, I think most of them were Mackenzie willow, Sitka willow, Columbia River willow. I think on the upland we had oh gosh, Val, you're making my brain think.
Don't.
Mostly willows along the riverbank there. A lot of it was erosion control, but then there was probably about 10 different species that we put in.
Is this isn't the one that's by Washougal, is it?
Oh no, that's the Staggerwald Refuge, and I do have one.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where the Tucanon is.
This is over in eastern Oregon, eastern Washington neighborhood, kind of by Lewiston, Idaho,
Okay.
kind of that neighborhood,
Mhm.
Snake River.
Yep.
Now, for the planting, are you are you amending the soil any?
Sometimes yes. Most of the times no. In that case, we ended up using a soil moist in there because we did not go out and it was in zones. So along the river zone, we didn't put anything in. And then we went up another elevation corridor and we put soil moist in all of our cutting holes. So
Okay.
And then boy, you're right. We may have put some fertilizer in there too as we went up because the soil was really rich and fertile down below and it wasn't needed. And so we kind of assessed that, as in soil tests, like you were just talking about. Kind of things like that, you really do that stuff.
And then what about it's been asked on the chat here, what about deer browsing
Oh my goodness.
as well as perhaps beaver and or nutria that might be up there?
Yeah, so that's the thing, of course. Yeah, there was a lot of deer browse. We did put, let me go back to that. We did put these tree protectors are actually pretty good. These are Pantera tree protectors, and for some reason the deer don't like them. They like and they have a kind of a composite stick on it, and then it has these little greenhouse things that have slots in it so the air goes through. But for some reason, the smell of it, they don't particularly care for. The blue tree protectors, however, man, they might as well be just a neon sign. Come and get me. I have a brand new plant right here in the blue thing. So, and they're pretty tricky. They can just like stick their nose down and then, love on it. Yeah. So beaver. So when you put these in, they do have to be at least a minimum of 3 inches in the ground, at a minimum, and soil put up around it. So you have to really monitor crew to make sure they don't get lazy doing that kind of stuff. Because if you have any of them that are kind of sideways or anything, I think that when beaver are born, they just wake up and say, "Okay, mom, what can we go destroy?" And And so they like scan across anything across our fields there. And if any of them were like lightly tipped over, they would just be like annihilated. So, but if they look like fortresses, it seems like they didn't bother them as much.
Dare we ask how many trees you planted here?
Oh, and this one, I don't recall it. A couple 100,000 on this one, maybe.
Yeah,
Couple
just
hundred.
just just a few more than we might have to deal with in our gardens, right?
Um, it's all relative. Uh, it makes when something dies in your yard, you don't feel quite as bad. I'll just say that. How's that? It's like, oh well, I can just plant another 50 and it'll, at least I'll get 12 to live. No, we had a pretty good success rate. Most of the time, most of these projects, you have to have a minimum of 80% survival. So you have to go out and monitor. It's not just like blow and go. You got to go and watch them. You got to see where the beaver and nutria are. You got to double check all your staples, and sometimes you overplant a whole bunch just so that they have something to munch on. So uh, that we do quite a lot. Okay, let me go back to, let's see, that was Buchanan Environmental. Isn't that the cutest picture? My little oak inside of there. Environmental. Let's see. Val wanted me to talk about J-line. Okay, this project, J-line, um, this is me monitoring it about 5 years afterwards. This project was done. It's a watershed restoration down by Alsea, Oregon. And so what we did here is we recontoured some logging roads that were had failed culverts and a lot of erosion problems from local out of season hunting and other things happening. Uh, and so what we ended up doing is Jim would go along and take out the culverts and the bridges in the neighborhood and the majority of the fill. And then I would do the full recontouring and get out after I'd go about 200 feet and I'd spread seed and mulch. But some of the canyons were pretty steep and deep. And Val, this is the one where we had a our agency inspector was on the site, and he had to sit way on the other side of the canyon. And Jim and I work pretty fast and pretty close together, which kind of scares people sometimes because I feel like I've been a wife in training for more than 30 years. I go really close to him and I've learned how to get really, really good at operating. But as we were going really close and uh, with our excavator booms in tandem going down this really steep canyon and back up and we were like side by side and it was in a pretty dangerous spot and we made it look really easy and it was really fun. But once I got to the bottom of the this spot right where I'm sitting in this photo, I did all of the log and rock placement. So those don't they look beautiful? I just kind of really like that spot. I made that. So I put the logs and rocks in it and then I snuck back up and caught up to Jim. And at the end of the time when we got to the top of the hill, our boss came over and he was just so excited. He's like, watching Jim and Kim is just like being in Fantasia and I'm Mickey Mouse and orchestrating the brooms. And so it was kind of a fun project. And I've taken students out to see this. I will say also on this one project, um, as I went through the environmental professional degree program at Portland State University, I was terrified sitting in one of the classes. And I'm in a class and I'm full of all these engineers, and they're just like all these smart people that are learning this environmental restoration. And here I'm really trying to learn. And some of the graduate study work, the homework was just killing me because I'm working, I'm working full time and trying to go to school. And some of the graduate work, there were studies on all these stream restorations. And I can tell you that more than a third, maybe up to a half of the case studies were on projects that Jim and I had completed. So I was able to pass because I kind of knew a bunch of stuff about it. Oh, water habitats. Let's see. Okay. Mount St. Helens. Lots more planting. Lots more planting. Okay.
So when you think about what it is you do, Kim, and what you're known for, I mean, it sounds like intricate excavator work is kind of a specialty of yours, or is there, how would you characterize what it is what it is LKE is really good at?
Jim, we are water quality. Jim is like this master of moving water. And clean water. So prepping a site to move water around away from your work area to keep it clean, pristine. So, I mean, you could just drink out of it right in the middle of our job site. It's that clean. And my specialty would be more of really naturalizing the site back to a historic type condition. And so, I mean, it goes back to our tagline is actually not really a tagline, it's a way of life. It's really hard but it's beautiful. And that is the legacy that we leave, is that you'll never know that we were there. And so, people build Walmarts and stuff like that, and I don't, so you can't see the work that I've done mostly. This is a sediment mat we put in for water quality. This is a really bizarre structure, but again, this is up on the Toutle River on Mount St. Helens. So this is wood racking, which is like limbs and stumps. And these are piling. There's 1,100 pilings here and this corral looking thing. So what happens is the water goes in one of these corral things, and it goes around and around and around and around and around and around. And every time it turns, it drops sediment out. Now, if your gentleman is going on a helicopter cruise over the top of this structure, Helen, he will know that this is now a step. It is a complete filled in step, which makes a natural grade control. It's called a cross valley structure. It's a grade control. So it was dropping out sediment through there. Another structures that we did, we built a bunch of islands across, and these are called island forming structures. And what they do is, as the water comes down, it kind of does this braiding thing across the Toutle River, and it hits each one of these things and it drops out sediment in these little teardrop forms. And again, lots of piling, lots of logs and root wads and racking. Here is the opening in the dam that's water goes through there. Just to give you an idea of scale and size, had cranes that did all the pile driving for us. And there is Silas. Skookum Dam. Where's Skookum Dam? Sorry, you guys.
So Kim, I'm curious. This is Midge.
Hi, Midge.
Are you creating these structures kind of on the fly? Like this grid that you did?
Oh gosh. No, that we've worked for a lot of different designers. There's a lot of hydraulic stuff goes on and a lot of fish structures. Here, this is, I'll show you this one particular. They might even answer that question. This is the Skookum Dam removal. It is down by Tillamook, and it's for the Tillamook watershed. There was a Skookum Lake up there. We never found Ogopogo or anything up there, but they say he's there. So this Visqueen line channel, that's our dewatering. So we have pristine water up there. We had to go down and remove a large portion of the dam and the water control structure and pipe and everything that was in it. And then in this particular case, so there's another dewatering, so you can see how clean it is. We have a cofferdam, a fish barrier net, sandbags all along. But as far as the design, so I've been doing it a long time. So short answer for Kim, yes, I design as I go. But also this was engineer design so that it didn't, because you can control whether the water is going to stay at a certain elevation for certain flood flows. This one was designed to catch debris and not let it unravel. They didn't have the funds available to pull all of this dam section out, but they didn't want to ravel it down because it goes into the Tillamook watershed for the public water. So these structures are keyed in, so that you're seeing about maybe a quarter of these pier logs, they call them, and then debris catches on it, and it kind of builds real estate, and water goes around it. Rocks and logs and all the things. Fish salvage is a big deal. This was the part of the barrier that got to be removed. So sometimes we have to do electrofishing. I hate doing that, but they say it's okay. This still scares me. I think, shocking the fish. Freaked me out. But yeah, let's see what other one.
So by the way, I've been putting in the chat, Kim, some of the notes. You're in Wikipedia for the for your Toutle River Dam.
Oh, am
And
I?
yeah, and you're also mentioned this, the whole Skookum Dam is also, there's also a website that references you as well.
Interesting. Oh, let's see. Gosh, I'm trying to think of General Temple's picture. Where is that at? Oh, here it is. There you go, Val. General Temple. Okay, so this is another project up on the Mountain Helens, and I'm just going along doing the job. I'm a woman-owned business. I hired a lot of local businesses, and I'll use one example that is really important, and I ended up getting an award for this, and I didn't even realize what was happening. So all those big structures that were built, we had to put kind of a threaded bar through, and they were kind of a specialty thing. I could have went to a big national place, like Vancouver Bolt or Fastline or something like that, just whatever, to buy mass quantities of these bars that we had to put in. But instead of doing that, I ended up hiring a local small business machine shop to get them and pre-cut them so they're all ready to go. And it cost me a little bit more money at the time, but it saved me time on the ground, and the wages are super, super high. And so I wanted to focus my crew on the ground on doing the structures rather than cutting metal, this kind of thing. And so the small business that we had hired, we didn't know until later, but they were pretty close to closing their doors, and the purchase was sizable enough that they were able to sustain themselves, get back on their feet, and so this is a photo. This is a dear gentleman, but Army Corps General. He flew out from Washington, D.C. to see this project. And it had been going on for a long time. You know, there's not a lot of volcanoes that are pretty active in the United States. So it was a big deal. And the Army Corps guys, they're really like, they're pretty regimented, I guess. They're pretty, you know, and so I learned I had the most wonderful time working with them, but they were having this big ceremony. You know, I don't know. Everyone puts their pants on the same, and I didn't realize this guy was this big important dude. So he comes out and he's giving this speech to everyone out on the site, and he's handing out these awards. And this photo, that's kind of a funny photo because there's a series of actually 6 photos right here. And my staff guys are taking pictures of me, and this guy comes up to me and he's like trying to shake my hand, and I'm backing away from him because like I don't want to be in your thing. I don't want to be in your picture. I don't get no award. I just need to go back to work and get my job done. And actually what it was is he congratulated me on being a hero to the crew and to the community, and he gave me a coin, and I had no idea what a Army Corps coin was all about. But he ended up being a really wonderful gentleman. But it was very, very funny at the time because everybody thought it's this big serious thing. And I thought, you guys, what are you talking about? It didn't seem serious to me. So
Thanks, Kim.
there you go, Val, the silly one. But I
Awesome.
was gonna kind of wrap up here really quick with one little 3-minute video thing, if that's all right, Kelly. This
Please.
is kind of I mean, we've done a whole lot of stuff, but this is one of my favorite videos. Our daughter has done most all of our job videos, or all of them.
Kim, if I recall, you hand choose the logs that are to be used in your projects, right?
But why? Why hand choose them?
They have to be just right.
And of course, Kim, we're all familiar with using of helicopters, of course, in our own local gardening activities. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Nothing,
come on.
nothing new there, right?
They're kind of fun to be around. You know, yeah. So I've had a good life. Our daughter has taken most all of the, probably 90% of all the photos in here, and all those job videos. She's been doing those since she was really tiny. She just has this amazing knack to walking up to endangered species. She's been able to walk up to like Virginia rails within 5 feet of them and video them. And when we were in northern Idaho doing grizzly bear habitat, come back to the job little camp, and our daughter sitting in the creek playing, and I panicked because about 100 feet down the creek was a grizzly bear sitting in the creek, and I'm like doing the mom thing, freaking out, going, "There's a bear, get in there!" And she's like, "Mom, he's been in there all day." I was like, "What?" So just a thing. We live with lions and tigers and bears, Kelly.
Questions and comments for Kim. This is again, Kim, this is it is indeed jaw dropping, right? You know, the
mhm.
scale that you're operating with here. And I guess I'm so impressed by the heavy equipment that you've had to bring in to deal with these massive projects. And yet you're dealing, it's, you know, the outcome, of course, is a very delicate environment that you're leaving behind, right? So
Yeah.
exactly to your motto, right? You know, you don't know you were there. We won't know you were there, placing those logs, placing those rocks, you know, adjusting that embankment. And so that really isn't, there's an art as much of a science, right? And a skill and a craft, you know, it's pretty amazing.
Well, I will say in regards to the Master Gardeners, basically I just have a big shovel and I've been gardening. And it is about the soil conditions. It is about watching where the drainages go and planting the right plants in the right spot. And um and if there's certain things that are growing there already, I try to salvage them and replant them, and they thrive if you give them the right conditions. And so it is just gardening. And it's just fun. I just have big rocks and big logs and big
Now,
shovels.
now, do you want to share your news though of the future and that you intend to join our little Master Gardener community?
You guys, Val. Yeah. I used to have a sticky note somewhere on my desk that said "Simplify your life. You don't have time." I don't know what happened to that.
I don't think you practiced that.
I'm failing at that. I start this in February in Hood River to do Master Gardeners. I have so many wonderful Master Gardener friends, you folks up north and down at Pacific County, but also down in Newburgh and Clackamas, Oregon City area. And so I I am part of the Rose Society, and they are totally different. It's a totally different organization and mindset. And I've been talking with those groups too, and I guess they like the juice. They like to listen to how silly I am. I don't know, but I felt like I don't need another shingle. I don't need anything else to do. But I really like to contribute my time. Like in that video, those are that was one of my office staff's little kids. And I just love to take the kids out and show them what can be done and how easy it is. How easy it is. And so if I can teach kids how to do stuff, but I think I might have taught Val a few things too. So if I can teach Val,
You could
I
teach
might,
anybody.
but yeah, I don't know. I guess I get to be one of your group starting in February.
And so, you know, again, I go back to the comment you just made here is that you do have a very big shovel, right? You know, but so much of what you described here is actually similar to kind of practices that we do encourage folks to adopt, right? With respect to, you know, natural materials, you know,
Yeah.
natural mulching, right?
Yeah.
Being thoughtful about hydrology and water flow and soil conditions and such, right? So it is interesting that so much of our concepts are applicable to what you do, although you've got a scale that is just you know, it's just gargantuan, right? You know, compared to our modest aspirations.
Well, Mother Nature is, pretty powerful chick, Just work with her. Work with Mother Nature.
Other questions, other comments
she'll do
for Kim?
Thank you, dear friend.
Good to see you guys all.
Very good. Hey, well, with that, we'll conclude the meeting here, and we'll move on for the afternoon. Reminder that our board meeting will convene at 1 o'clock today. The same URL. Everyone's welcome to join. And Kim, thank you so much for coming together with us to share this, because this is inspirational, and it's important work, and you know that, right? That the work you do and the contributions you've made, right, are significant, and of course, you know, they'll last long after we're all gone. So that's kind of a cool legacy too, huh? Okay. Hey, thanks all for everyone. You know, we'll see a number of you at 1 o'clock. You know, and again, take care, stay safe.
Thanks, Kelly.